Hello, serials.
Welcome to Serial Killer.
In this episode, we're gonna get deep into the most mysterious serial killers.
We're talking about Ted Bundy, Jack the Ripper, and Clown the Killer, and I'm sure you're going to get chilled. Let's go deep into the history.
Chapter 1. Jack the Ripper. For this one, we need to step back in time to the foggy streets of Victorian London, where fear gripped the heart of every citizen. Jack the Ripper, who was an exclusive killer, were murdered a bunch of bodies around the city of Whitechapel.
Explore the theories and suspects behind one of the most history-enduring mysteries. Was Jack a skilled surgeon or a dangerous lunatic? Join us to unmask the identity of this enigmatic killer.
Jack the Ripper was active around the year 1888, between August 31 to November 9.
Jack the Ripper committed his murders at a place known as Whitechapel, which was a really poor zone. In this case, was ubicated in the Victorian London.
All his victims were poor women or prostitutes that were working on the street at the middle of the night.
We only know about 5 of his victims, but at the time, they found around 6 bodies which they couldn't relate with him.
This arrogant killer was sending different messages during his crimes, but one of the most famous one was a letter sent to the police to make fun of them because they couldn't catch him. This letter was named The Hell and was signed by the first time with the name of Jack the Ripper. This letter also came with half a kidney of one of his victims. His first victim, Mary Ann, was found by a horse rider in the middle of the night. She was found with a cut on the neck, side by side.
His second victim was Annie Chapman, which was also a prostitute. In this case, he was related with the first victim because of her cut at her neck, which was also side by side.
They were both prostitutes.
A witness said that he saw the victim a few moments before her death. She was talking to a man around his 40s wearing a black coat and a black hat. He said that he looked as a friend.
The police assumed that this was the killer, but they couldn't find him at the time. But until now, we have no clue who committed the murders, but we have some theories. But in 2014, we found him. With a test of DNA with the clothes of one of his victims, we found out that this terrorist of Whitechapel, his name was Aaron Koshmisk, and he committed all the crimes, and he was a patient of schizophrenia. Some of the experts didn't agree with this result. So, until this day, we don't know who was the unsolved who committed these crimes. His name is still unknown, but his legacy is still alive. But his name, Jack the Ripper.
Chapter 2. The Texas Clown.
John Wayne Gay was born in 1942, and between 1972 and 1977 he killed more than 30 young boys. His nickname of Pogo the Clown was due to an alter ego that was created by him and into which he heard of the parties of neighbors and social events. He was shocking dressed in a huge red monkey with a half pair of gray strips, and his face was painted with blue eyes and mouth red. The process for Casey to become one of the best psychopaths in history began in 1968. Most of the murders he committed were between 1976 and 1978. When his wife divorced and left home, he buried 26 bodies in his house in the basement. When he had no more space, he buried 3 in other places in the house like the kitchen or his room. And 4 more, they would throw him into a nearby river on his house.
But then the clown confessed to his lawyers his terrible crimes. 2 years later, he was sentenced to the death penalty. Casey confessed to having used different techniques to attract young people. He usually went to the bus station, disguised as a sheriff or with work promises. This made it easier to the victims to end up at his home during the 14 years. When he was accused and convicted of abusing on a minor, his sentence would be a decade long, but he only served 16 months, thanks to good behavior in prison.
As Casey was in jail, he spent most of his time painting pictures, but the creepy part here is that they are not like usual pictures, because the protagonists of these pictures were clowns, like creepy clowns, Elvis, or also the Snow White dwarfs. On May 10 of 1994, Casey was executed by means of the lethal injection.
And that was a big mistake, because that decision would be transcendental due to the story of Pogo the Clown.
After a year of being released from prison, he kidnapped a child who was on the street. He sexually abused him, forcing him to have sex with him, to simply end up killing him. This simply causes an escalation of murders, since he discovered that murdering people caused him a lot of emotion, which just wake up a lot of fear on people.
You have to be afraid of clowns. You never know, the person who makes you laugh can also make you cry.
Chapter 3. Ted Bundy. Ted Bundy was a murderer who around the 70s killed more than 30 women. His way of acting was always the same. He started by stalking his victims near the university campuses or even supermarkets in broad daylight. Then he approached them with an arm in a sling, asking to help him carry some books to the car. Where there, he beat them with an iron bar, also kidnapped them, tortured them, and murdered them.
So Bundy managed to go unnoticed for quite some time. This was by changing his appearance and by traveling to different states. This with the idea of not raising any suspicions. But over the time, this was not function, and he was leaving more evidence. By the year of 1974 and 1978, he killed over 30 women, which 14 bodies were found at the states of Oregon and Florida. Also, by the year of 1945, he got arrested with a sentence of 15 years in prison for kidnapping someone, and just 1 year after he murdered someone and he go to a trial. In order to prepare his defense, Ted Bundy was often taken to visit the Bible, where one time he tried to escape away from the police, but this doesn't matter much because it just lasted like 6 days. In the year of 1977, he escaped again for the second time, and it was not until 1978 that he got arrested for assaulting the Chi Omega at the University of Florida. Finally, at the year of 1979, he was declared guilty for the crimes at Florida, and they declared him the electric chair.
Despite being sentenced to death, his execution would take years to arrive. Bundy confessed to multiple murders and also offered clues about where was the bodies of some of the victims. This as a pretending to extend his execution, but he was finally executed on January 24, 1989. Now you might be thinking, how could I survive a serial killer? Well, to avoid one of the situations the victims went on, we're going to show you some tips. The first tip would always be aware of your surroundings. If you're walking alone on the street, make sure you're not distracted by anything. try to not use headphones because some of them might think this is a good target because she is distracted. She's listening to music. She could not hear me if I just grab her. If I come close to her, she won't hear me. So make sure if you're in the position of walking alone on the street, not to have headphones on or anything that could distract you.
The next tip is trying not to be alone. Because if you're alone, like walking the street, people might think like you are in a weak moment where the least thing that you might expect is to be attacked by other people.
Another thing to avoid these situations must be your attitude. You need to know how to say no, because when you act submissive, they would know if that person's don't know how to say no. Just like Ted Bundy did. He was acting like he was injured and he needed help. Would you help him? Of course not, because we all know how the story ended up. So, you need to say no when any stranger come close to you, to your personal space, or told you that I need help with my car, it's over there, come with me. That could be putting yourself in a dangerous position. The most important thing could be your body language. Most of serial killers agree on the fact that if you're acting a certain way, you could be a possible target because you're having bad posture, your chin isn't high enough, your voice isn't loud enough. So they might think that you can put a good fight against them. If you act like you are secure enough to put a good fight when they attempt to grab you, to kidnap you, they would stay away from loud women, stay away for the woman that isn't looking submissive, because they might think that you can put a fight against them. And also, if you're in the situation of kidnapping, you need to be loud as you can. You need to shout, you need to kick, you need to punch, just so you can have an opportunity to survive them.
Hello, serials.
We're going to talk about.
No!
Join us to unmask.
The Chapter 2, The Texas Clown.
Ah, ya. Otra vez.
At the dusty plains of Texas. Bueno, esa es la palabra. At the dusty plains.
¿Ya?
Ya.
Qué pedo. Hemos hablado.
No me carga cómo se dice riñón. Ah, es que estoy al revés, soy tonto. Kidney.
Kidney, kidney, obvio.
Clown the killer. You have to be afraid of clowns. For example,
No.
Fede Vigevani bought clowns in the deep web, and let me tell you, his house now is like a infierno. Hell. Now he is haunted by clowns every day, and in his house he listens a lot of noises, and the clowns are going to kiss. And he is so beautiful, and he doesn't deserve it. I know, I want to help him, but I can't. He's the love of my life. And Rodrigo too.
Okay.
As we conclude our journey through the dark corridors of serial killer history, we are left with a haunting reminder of the depth of human depravity. Join us next time to we delve into more chilling tales of infamy. Until then, stay safe and remember always trust your instincts.